Welcome to another deep dive with my mind mashups. Okay, think about this. We spend so much of our waking lives, countless hours, glued to screens, right? Texting, scrolling, basically living through these little devices. It's almost impossible to imagine moments without them nearby. But then here's this really weird thing. When we go to sleep, when we enter that theater of dreams, these phones, these tablets, they often just vanish like ghosts. Or maybe you do dream about a phone, but it's always broken or you can't dial. It's fascinating. Why? Why does the tech that dominates our day just disappear at night? So today, that's the burning question. Why don't we see our devices in our dreams? And the answer, well, it's going to take us on quite a journey. We're talking brain science, evolution, symbolism, even some philosophical ideas. It might end up feeling, well, hauntingly relatable. Before we dive in, though, if you enjoy these kinds of explorations, please take a quick second to like, share, and subscribe, or follow my mind mashups. It really helps us bring you more deep dives. Okay, so let's get into it. To figure out why our devices might be MIA in dreams, we probably need to start with the brain itself, right? What's actually going on up there when we're dreaming? What's this night mode?
Right. Well, what's really key here is REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep. That's when most vivid dreaming happens. And during REM, your brain acts, well, very differently than when you're awake. A really crucial part is that the frontal lobe, the bit responsible for logic, planning, executive reasoning, it largely powers down. It takes a backseat.
Okay, so the logic part is offline. What's online then?
Well, the deeper, more emotional and visual centers light up. Think the amygdala, your brain's emotional core, gets really active. This means dreams tend to run on feelings, on imagery, much more than on, say, rational thought. Memory circuits also fire up, but they seem to focus on consolidating emotional experiences.
So it's prioritizing feelings, big memories.
Exactly. This night mode is geared toward processing raw emotions, powerful images. It's less interested in the mundane stuff like checking your email or scrolling through feeds, unless those things are really charged with feeling for some reason.
Which explains why trying to read text in a dream is so weird, right? And it never stays the same.
Precisely. Or doing math. It gets all glitchy because those language and logic centers are dialed down. And phones require that precise logic, don't they? Numbers, letters, the electronics actually working. That's exactly the kind of stuff the sleeping brain isn't really set up for. Our brain's night mode just doesn't have much use for a smartphone. It's busy working through feelings and memories, often using metaphors. Like Dr. Aaron Wamsley over at Furman University said, dreams favor emotionally salient content. A phone might be useful, sure, but it's not usually tied to deep survival needs or powerful emotions in the same way, say, running from a threat is.
That makes a lot of sense. So if our brains are kind of wired this way at night, focusing on feelings over fiddly logic, could it be that evolution plays a role too? Like our dream software is just too old for smartphones?
Oh, absolutely. That brings us straight to the evolutionary brain theory. You have to remember, the basic machinery for dreaming evolved over millions of years. It was honed in a world that looked nothing like ours today. No screens, no Wi-Fi.
Right. A very different set of priorities.
Exactly. So there's this idea called the threat simulation hypothesis from Andy Ravansuo. It suggests dreams evolved partly as a kind of internal training ground, a simulator for survival, practicing how to deal with ancient threats, think wild animals, conflicts with other groups.
Not worrying about your phone battery dying?
Precisely. Not low phone battery. Our brains learned over eons to prioritize scenarios that kept our ancestors alive. That's why we might wrestle lions in nightmares, not battle spreadsheets. Dreams are like a flight simulator, but for emotions and survival responses.
So our dream settings default to the old stuff?
Yeah. The default seems to be these age-old dramas. Chases, fights, connection, loss. Not the ultra-modern stuff. Like the writer Alice Robb pointed out, people tend to dream more about survival things like fighting and less about rooting and writing, which are, historically speaking, pretty recent developments.
So our Stone Age brain is running the show at night?
In a way, yes. The dream generator seems rooted in that ancient neural circuitry. Smartphones are just too new. They haven't had time to get hardwired into that core nocturnal storytelling. Our Stone Age brain looks at a smartphone and just doesn't see much relevance for the kind of deep, primal dream narratives it's built to create. It's like that analogy Dr. Robert Stickgold from Harvard uses. Dreams are like an old operating system. They're running code from a time when survival meant social bonds and physical threats, not Wi-Fi signals.
That old operating system idea really sticks.
And the data backs it up too. There was this big analysis, over 16,000 dream reports. They found cars, which have been around over a century and can definitely evoke danger, showed up in about 9% of dreams.
Okay, 9% for cars. What about phones?
Phones. Only about 3%? Roughly the same rate as dreaming about movies or TV. Way less than something basic like a car. It really suggests that our brain's dream OS, forged way back when, mostly just overlooks these newer gadgets.
Okay, so the brain's not wired for it, evolution hasn't caught up. But maybe our modern lives are sneaking in just differently. Could our devices be showing up in disguise? Symbolically?
That's a really strong possibility. This leads us nicely into the symbolism hypothesis. The idea here is that our dreaming mind is incredibly clever at translation. It takes these abstract modern concepts and morphs them into timeless symbols.
So my phone isn't a phone, it's something else.
Exactly. Maybe the act of trying to communicate, texting someone, calling them, gets translated into a dream about having a face-to-face talk, or even feeling some kind of psychic connection. Or if you rely on map apps, maybe you dream of being lost on a winding road. The feeling disorientation is there, but the device isn't. Screens could become mirrors, or maybe strange visions.
That makes sense. It finds an older language for the new idea.
Precisely. It uses archetypal language. And think about those common dreams where tech does appear, but it's always broken.
Yeah. The phone that won't dial, the computer screen showing gibberish. I've definitely had those.
Yeah.
So frustrating.
Right. You see tons of anecdotes about this, especially online, like on Reddit.
Right.
The calls don't connect, the battery is dead, the text scrambles. It's almost like the dream is deliberately saying, nope, this tool isn't the answer here. The frustration itself becomes the message. It might cap into your waking feelings of being disconnected or anxious about reaching someone.
Ah, so the malfunction is the point.
It could be. There was this great example from a dreamer. She was trying to find song lyrics on her phone in the dream, and it just wouldn't work. So she turned and asked her stepmother, who was also in the dream, and they ended up laughing together.
So the broken tech pushed her towards a human connection.
Exactly. The phone served as a plot device, malfunctioning to steer the dream towards a human resolution, towards connection. So the core intent, reach out, find info, gets rendered in a more primal, symbolic way. These sleek modern gadgets get transformed into something more timeless once they cross into dreamland.
That's a really elegant idea. And it makes me think about our daily habits, too, all that screen time. Could our dreams be deliberately giving us a break, like a forced digital detox every night?
That's another really compelling angle. I mean, we live in this era of just constant stimulation, right?
Yeah.
Pings, notifications, endless scrolling. Our brains are often overloaded. So yeah, dreaming could be the mind's way of hitting clear cache. Wiping the slate clean to focus on the deeper stuff, feelings, unresolved conflicts, core memories, without all the digital noise.
A built-in digital Sabbath. I like that.
It fits, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Carves out this space where the subconscious can process things without distractions. And while we know daily life influences dreams, that's the continuity hypothesis, it's still striking how rare heavily tech-focused dreams seem to be, considering how much time we spend with tech.
And when tech does show up strongly, it's often negative.
Often, yes. There was a study just this year, 2024, linking heavy social media use to more disturbed sleep and even nightmares. Things like dreaming you're trapped doom scrolling, or caught in nasty online arguments, or panicking about your account.
Oof. Yeah, that doesn't sound pleasant.
Not at all. So maybe your healthier, more well-adjusted dreams are actually steering clear of that kind of digital drama, pushing us towards more, natural emotional processing.
It's like the difference between a habit and something meaningful.
Exactly. Checking your phone might be mostly automatic, a habit. It doesn't necessarily engage your deep self, your soul, if you like. Dreams tend to cut through that surface stuff and get to the core, the grief, the desires, the fears. Your brain might just decide that the hours you spent scrolling Instagram are, mental junk mail, not worth replaying or processing deeply during sleep.
Like Dr. Matthew Walker at UC Berkeley says, sleep is a detox for the mind.
Right. He talks about REM sleep dialing down the noise of daily life to process emotions and memories. So the absence of devices could just be the brain doing its nightly cleanup, saying, okay, let's get back to basics, back to what's fundamentally human, a purge of the trivial to confront the meaningful.
Okay, that's powerful. A mental detox. Let's push this even further then. Could there be something deeper, almost philosophical or spiritual? Is tech just seen as soulless by our dreaming mind?
Well, you're entering fascinating territory there. Many spiritual traditions do see dreams as something special, a connection to a deeper reality, the soul, a higher truth. And from that perspective, yeah, technology might seem like a purely material distraction, something mundane that just can't cross the threshold into that inner sanctum.
Like leaving your muddy boots at the door.
Kind of. Dreams might be trying to return us to a pure state of awareness, where gadgets simply have no power or relevance. Think about Jung's idea of the collective unconscious, populated by these timeless archetypes, the shadow, the wise old man, the great mother.
Yeah.
You don't really picture any of them checking their notifications, do you?
Huh. No, definitely not. But are we maybe reading too much into it? Giving dreams intentions they don't have?
It's always a risk with interpretation, sure. But maybe soulless is just how our deep psyche perceives tech as something fundamentally different from core human experiences like love, fear, nature. You even see echoes of this in culture. Remember Nicolas Cage talking about AI? He found the idea of AI getting to our dreams actively disturbing.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
He said something like, robots cannot reflect the human condition for us. He felt dreams should belong only to humans. It taps into that intuition many people have. So maybe our dreams evict tech almost like an immune system rejecting something foreign. Because dreams grapple with these huge, weighty human themes: love, death, awe, grief, iPad, a Zoom call. They just don't seem to carry that kind of psychic weight, you know?
They feel lighter, less essential.
Perhaps. How often do we feel tech numbs us or distracts us from what's really real? Maybe in dreams, our deeper self just hits the off switch, forcing us to deal with the raw stuff, unmediated. Now, the interesting question is, could that change? Could the smartphone eventually become an archetype, a symbol for connection or knowledge, or maybe even temptation like the snake?
That's a mind-bending thought.
It is. But for now, it seems like for most of us, our dreaming soul is basically saying, sorry, this plastic rectangle isn't on the guest list for the Temple of Dreams.
Okay, so mostly excluded. But you mentioned change. Are we seeing signs that tech is starting to creep in? Is the dreamscape evolving?
We are definitely seeing signs of change, yes. While phones are still only in that small percentage of dreams, it's not zero. And there's evidence it is shifting, albeit slowly.
How so?
Well, one big factor is age. Younger people, Gen Z, millennials who've literally never known a world without smartphones and the internet, they report more dreams featuring technology than older generations do.
That makes sense. It's more baked into their reality.
Exactly. And it gets even more interesting with things like AI. Remember that 2023 poll? Finding that 1 in 5 people had actually dreamed about artificial intelligence.
1 in 5, wow. Mostly nightmares, you said.
A lot of them were anxiety-driven, yeah. Machines taking over, fears about job losses, the kind of stuff we worry about when we're awake. But get this, about 26% of those people dreamed of talking to an AI, like it was a person. That's pretty striking. It suggests our unconscious minds are starting to really grapple with AI, personifying it, wrestling with its implications.
And younger people dreamt about AI more.
Yes, Gen Z had the highest rates, which again suggests this integration of tech into dreaming might increase over time, generation by generation. And anecdotally, you hear other examples. Gamers dreaming, they're in the game, the Tetris effect. People who use VR sometimes describe dreaming in VR.
Some immersion plays a role.
It seems to.
Yep.
And then there's the really cutting-edge stuff. Like in September 2024, researchers actually managed the first successful communication between two people while they were both dreaming, using brain monitoring tech.
Whoa, seriously? That sounds like science fiction.
Right. It suggests we might be heading towards a future where tech isn't just absent from dreams, it might actually mediate or shape them in new ways. But there's still a caveat. Even when tech appears in these dreams, reports often say it's still weird, unreliable. The game world might break its own rules, the AI might morph into your grandmother.
So the dream logic still takes over.
It often seems to. It's like the dream can only hold on to that high-tech fidelity for so long before it bends it back towards something more symbolic or emotionally driven. As Karen Conkley at Northwestern put it, as tech becomes more emotionally salient, it's sneaking into dreams, especially for lucid dreamers who have more control. So we're likely in this fascinating transition period. Our psyches are negotiating with tech, figuring out where it fits in the dream world.
Okay, this is incredibly fascinating. We have this general absence, but also these little intrusions, especially for younger people and around emotionally charged tech like AI. So wrapping this up, what does all this tell us about our actual relationship with technology when we're awake?
I think it holds up a really interesting mirror. On one hand, it suggests that despite our seeming addiction, maybe on a deeper spiritual level, we're still quite detached from our gadgets. Our souls, you could say, seem largely unimpressed.
We rely on them, but they don't touch us deeply.
Perhaps not as deeply as we think. The subconscious seems to prioritize that nightly dive into fears, hopes, and core relationships over checking digital notifications. It might be a quiet reminder that maybe the constant screen time isn't providing the deepest kind of nourishment.
Like a subconscious protest.
Could be. A silent protest asking for more genuine stuff, more face-to-face connection, more nature, more real-world experiences, more life. Or maybe it's protective. Our waking lives are so saturated with information, anxiety, social comparison online. Dreams may act as that relief valve, shielding us from overload, letting us process the underlying emotions without the distracting tech interface.
And when the tech does show up and breaks,
Then the dream might be stripping away the tool to show you the raw feeling underneath, the frustration, the loneliness, the desire for connection. In a way, maybe our dreams are trying to keep us grounded, keep us human.
it highlights that split between our physical and digital lives.
It really does. And the dream world seems to clearly favor the physical and emotional. If you spend, say, 8 hours online but never dream about it, that could be a signal from your deeper self that the virtual world isn't truly feeding your soul.
That's quite hauntingly relatable, as you said earlier.
It can be. But then the flip side is the fact that tech is starting to creep in, especially as nightmares about social media or AI, that also tells us something important. It shows our psyche will grapple with things that genuinely impact our well-being or stir up anxiety. Those dreams are messages too, maybe highlighting where tech is stressing us out, urging us towards healthier boundaries.
So paying attention to whether tech appears and how it appears can be revealing.
Absolutely. Like Dr. Kelly Bulkley suggested, if dreams reflect the soul, maybe their general rejection of tech is that quiet cry for presence, nature, connection. It really pushes you to ask that provocative question. Are we living lives that our souls don't recognize?
Wow. That's a heavy thought to end on. So what does this all mean then? After this deep dive, it feels like the very silence of our dreams about smartphones is actually saying something quite loud.
I think so. It seems they're constantly subtly reminding us about what's fundamental versus what's maybe just surface noise, what's truly meaningful versus what might be illusion. They act as this nightly sanctuary where the core self remembers what it is, unmediated, untethered.
So tonight, when you drift off to sleep, don't be too surprised if your phone is nowhere in sight in that inner landscape. Maybe, just maybe, that's exactly how it's supposed to be. And it leaves us with that final thought to ponder. If dreams really are a mirror of the soul, what might they be trying to protect us from by keeping our devices out? Well, that wraps up our deep dive into why tech often ghosts us in our dreams. If you enjoyed this journey into the mind, please do take a moment to like, share, and subscribe or follow My Mind MashUps. We'd love to have you join us for more. You can find My Mind MashUps on all the major platforms: Amazon Music, Audible, Facebook, Pocket Casts, Spotify, and YouTube. Until next time, keep exploring the fascinating world both around you and maybe even more importantly, the one within you.